Today we are talking about how do you talk to a lender. As we talk about like how do we talk to a lender, what we have to think about is, okay, what type of lenders are we talking about? Are we talking about a lender, meaning is it a bank? Are you talking to a lender as in a private money lender? Or are you talking to a commercial lender? Because the conversation that you're going to have with a residential lender, a conversation that you're going to have with a hard money lender, a conversation that you're going to have with a hedge fund type of a lender that's going to give you, I should say a portfolio lender, meaning small banks and trusts. The conversations are going to be a little bit different. So let's kind of give an overview of this, and I'm just going to pencil out. Oops. I'm just going to kind of pencil out what type of lenders that we are talking about. So basically, the first lender. Okay, the first lender is going to be a residential lender, meaning if you have a traditional Fannie Freddie loan, right? That's going to be one. Number two is going to be if you have a commercial lender. And commercial lender today is generally going to be in the form of a hedge fund, right? So a hedge fund is going to be your commercial lender generally. So this is basically also, this term was known as a hard money lender, right? So these guys are lending you loans for flips. These guys are lending you loans to buy, to do rentals on the long term. So, and these people, whenever they're doing a flip lending, they're lending you the funds where you have to put 10 to 15% down payment. So what does that mean? What that means is you have to put down, if you're buying a property for say 200,000, you're going to have to put down, if you're qualified, meaning you have experience in the past, you're going to have to put down 10%. So that's going to be about $20,000. Like tomorrow, I have a closing on a property I'm buying here in Lombard, and I believe I'm buying it for 240, if I'm not mistaken. I have 2 or 3 closings. Well, one tomorrow, a couple day after, so that's what I'm kind of trying to recall. So 240. So what does that mean? In that case, I have to come up with 10% because I would be obviously considered a experienced borrower in that case. Now, I could have paid cash for it, but it didn't make sense because all I have to do is come up with 10%. So in this case, $24,000, and that's it. And I can do the deal. My rehab budget on the property is about 45 to 50K, right? So 100% of the rehab budget will get funded by the lender once you're done. So that's going to be your second type of lender. What is your third lender? And the third lender, a lot of people are not aware of, which is going to be your small banks or banks and trust and that kind of stuff, right? So you have your small banks. These types of loans are called a portfolio lender. What does a portfolio lender mean? That the bank keeps the loan in-house. The way a bank works is, let's say they have 100 million in deposits, they can go out and get from the feds 9 times that approximately, right? And so they're basically lending that money and they keep it on their books. And this is going to be a 5-year balloon type of product. One thing I forgot to point out, with your hedge fund type of lender, commercial lenders, you also have they also have a product for rental properties, right? So if you're doing rentals, they have a product. That particular product, it's called a DSCR loan. DSCR, right? What this means is that this loan is not based on you qualifying personally. This loan is based on the property cash flow qualifying. So it's not, now, do they look at your credit score? Sure. They look at it every 6 months, they'll look at it. They may not pull a credit. Some of them will do a soft pull, but it's not necessarily generally credit driven. It's driven by the cash flow of the property. It's not driven by the taxes, right? But so basically it's not driven whether you filed your taxes or not. It's going to be driven completely by the DSCR, right, of the property, which is basically, it's a debt coverage ratio is really what drives that particular loan. Now, the fourth type of a lender, when we talk about, is going to be your private money. So if you're from Mastery, you already know this. Like in Mastery, we have a lot of people that do millions and millions and millions of dollars of lending for private money every single year, right? So how you talk to a private money lender versus how you talk to a regular bank where you're looking for a Fannie Freddie product is going to be a little bit different. Today, we're going to focus on private money lending. Having said that, you're watching Burr Cash Flow Investors. If you're not a part of the group and you're not joined yet, make sure that you become a member, invite your friends, invite your family. And at the 3-day, as some of you guys know, we have the giveaway for two to the Burr Cash Flow Investors. So if you invite your friends, you invite your family, your odds of basically your name being drawn go up exponentially. And also, as a reminder, the 3 days coming up on the 24th, 25th, and 26th. So it's just like literally 10 days from now that we're going to be at the 3-day. So if you haven't registered, register for the 3-day. Okay, so let's go back to private money lenders. So when you think about private money lenders, think about it's all about psychology and for them to feel comfortable to be able to do lending to you. So if you're from Mastery, great. If you're not from Mastery, still is okay, right? There are literally millions and millions and millions of people around the country that have some money in their retirement, some money in their savings, and they would love to be able to do something with it. They just don't know what to do, and they don't know, if you're a real estate investor, they don't know how you're supposed to present to them. See, all they know is that, hey man, I don't want to lose my money, right? And all they know is I want to feel comfortable. So I'll explain how I started. When I started, I didn't have the confidence. Today, if I necessarily need money, I can always obviously get a loan from a hedge fund. I can get a loan from a bank, right? I was in 2008 when I started, the market was collapsing. I was not in this position. Obviously, I didn't have experience. So it's like, well, to be able to get money, to be able to talk confidently to people, you need experience. But if you don't have any experience, then how do you confidently talk to people, right? It's that chicken and the egg scenario. What came first? So the question becomes is this, that for me at the time, this is 2008, mind you, you didn't have all the YouTube videos, you didn't have how to be able to raise capital and all this information freely available. So I had to kind of come up with a way where I felt comfortable with it because I was very uncomfortable. I was very uncomfortable in terms of asking someone for money. Today, I have no problem, right? Hey man, I'm going to do this XYZ project, and do you want to be on board? Right? And it wouldn't bother me because I can present my ideas. If somebody says yes, it's okay. Somebody says no, that's fine also, right? It's not that nobody wants to be said no to. Understand that, right? But it's not going to bother me as much because guess what? I already have the results. So then when you have the results, then things don't bother you as much, right? Because I know I can get a lot of people to be on board with an idea as long as my idea is salient. So at that time, the strategy that I used. Now, if you're from Mastery, it's easy for you, obviously, right? Take the one-pager and just follow that checklist where we talk about how do you present your idea, how do you present it to a hard money lender, to a private money lender from Mastery, and we already have it laid out, right? But I want to take a little bit of a step back, and I want to talk to everybody within the group. So if you're from Mastery, then it's simple, just follow the formula because you already have a group of people, a large group of people. Now, if you're smart, what you will do is you'll take some of the tips from today and you'll apply them because you'll find other lenders that are in your life. See, here's the deal. Nobody wants to buy, nobody wants to be sold, everybody likes to buy. Think about that statement. What does that mean? What that means is that we've all experienced somebody who's really enthusiastic about what they're doing, and we get fired up. And because we get fired up, then we want to be a part of whatever they're doing, right? That's called, people like to buy, they don't want to be sold, right? Nobody wants to be pushed into it. Same thing with a lender, right? A lender should want to feel that they're a part of your deal. Now, if you are from Mastery, you already have a huge group at the 3-day. We'll have a huge group of people, like a few hundred people in the room, and there'll be a massive group of people that have money. They would love to go make deals with people, right? That's just what happens because they're in that environment. It's like if you go to church and you say to somebody, hey, I want to go, will you come to the Bible study? People be all excited, right? They're like, hey, we're at church. So they're talking the same language. You go to the 3-day, you talk to somebody, hey, man, I'm looking for funding. Guess what? People are there to learn real estate. They're already in the business. It becomes easy. But in our normal lives, how do you break that conversation with somebody? Because you may have a relative that may have some money. You may have a friend that may have some money, so on and so forth. But I was very hesitant because I didn't want them to turn me down, right? And so the way I did it early on when I didn't know anybody that could fund my deals was I was insecure, so I didn't have the confidence to say, hey, man, I'm going to do this, and do you want to invest $100,000? Right? I felt very insecure. So the way I did it is I would make conversation about real estate, right? I was selling real estate anyways, and people were, oh my God, the market is terrible. This is 2008, and nobody's investing. I know my uncle, he lost money, blah, blah, blah. But I would always talk positively about real estate investing that, hey, today, there's a lot of opportunity. The market is crashing, and there's so many foreclosures that are coming up, and, I'm going to go look at a foreclosure, blah, blah, blah. So I would talk about the deals I was looking at. Now, mind you, at the time, I hadn't done a single deal, right? So I can't make it up because people around me that knew me, they knew that I was in real estate, quote unquote, selling real estate, but I had not invested yet. But what happens is this: for every 3, 4, 5 naysayers, you're going to meet people that are positive, right? That are people who are like, oh my God, there's an opportunity, right? Around us, there's a lot of people that will say, oh my God, I've always wanted to invest in real estate. But if you ask them flat out, hey, can you give me money? A lot of times people may say no to you if you don't have a history, right? Now, mind you, if you don't ask, you're never going to get, right? That's just how it is. And sometimes that ask is very, very hard. So the way I did it is I would talk passionately about real estate investing and the opportunities that it offers, right? And the properties that were coming up that, in my opinion, I thought they were pretty good deals, right? And you'll learn how to do that at the 3-day, obviously. And so we had a bunch of group of 5, 6, 8 people, and there were a bunch of them that were like, oh man, Andrew, you're going to be Mr. Rich Guy, right? I'm like, well, I don't know about Mr. Rich Guy or not, but hey, certainly, man. I mean, I'd like to do better. I'd like to own a bunch of properties one day, and I know there's an opportunity. But there were a couple of people. One was a pilot. His name was Kevin. And another one was a friend of mine, Freddie, right? And I mean, I should say acquaintance. I was a friend at that time, acquaintance. And he used to own or he still does, he owned the big, huge cigar lounge. And I'd go there after work in the evening, would talk about politics and would talk about, different business things, and real estate being one of them, the main one. And so we would all talk, and all the people who were the naysayers, they would sit in the other corner. We would sit with 2, 3 people, and the people I would talk to were small business owners. These are not rich people. These are people, they're small business owners. One guy was a fabricator, Coach Mike, we used to call him. And what started happening was, as we're talking every day, I'd bring in a bunch of list of properties. I'm like, man, this property's coming up, blah, blah, blah. As we're talking, those guys would be like, man, well, next time when you go look at one of those properties, let us know. Maybe we'll come take a look at it, right? And so I'm like, now I'm hoping in the background, right? I have my fingers crossed that maybe they'll invest with me, right? Now, I don't want to say that because I don't want to feel that I'm needy, but really I had a need, which is I needed people to be able to invest with me. But I didn't want to feel that. I didn't want to seem that I was needy. So So what I'm doing is, in the meantime, as I'm talking to them, I'm like, hey, guys, there's a property coming up. I'm going to go take a look. Do you guys want to go? This was my way of putting them in the property with me. Now, we'd walk through a bunch of 2-3 properties. Now, the guys that were interested, what they started saying was, they're like, dude, if you do something, let me know, right? Maybe I'll go in also. And this is typical, right? Everybody is on board until you get rolling, and then they're like, oh, well, my wife said no, and blah, blah. And you're going to have that happen, right? I had that happen. Like, literally, I'll never forget this. On my first deal, right? I talked to 4 people. All 4 of them were like, well, yeah, maybe on your next one, let me know. But you know what Freddie said? Freddie's like, man, I can throw in 20,000, and I had borrowed 20,000 on my home equity from Chase at the time, and I put in 20,000. I'm like, Freddie, man, listen, I respect you. I don't want you ever to lose money. I think we're going to make money. He's like, yeah, man, I think we're going to make money. And mind you, he was doing no work. I found the property. I was going to get the property rehab. Not that I was going to do the rehab, because I didn't know how. I was going to manage the rehab, quote unquote, at the time. And then I was going to put it on the market and get the property sold and split the profits 50-50. But at the time, what I did was this, and this is important when you're talking to lenders, right? So if you're somebody that is an engineer, totally fine, right? How do people get started in real estate? Well, you get started in real estate with no experience. And then as you do something, you gain experience. So, but what happens is this, that if your friends know you for the last 10 years as the dude who's like passionate about football, right? So if there's a question about football, guess who they're going to call? You. Now, you may be a doctor by profession. You may be a, whatever, engineer. You may drive Uber. You may do whatever the heck you do. But people around you know you as the dude who knows all the stats about football. We've all met people like that, right? Or whatever sports or whatever politics, whatever you're into, right? People seek your opinion, not because they necessarily think you're right, but because you know more than other people know. So what happens if you get into real estate, if you want to get into real estate or anything, for a matter of fact, what you have to start doing is you have to start, here's the thing. A lot of people get into real estate. The difference between people who succeed and the people who don't, and succeed meaning at a higher level, right? Not just average, are that real estate has to get in you. It has to become a part of you. At some point, if you want to be good at anything, guys, listen, you have to eat, breathe, and sleep it. Meaning, you may have a full-time other job, but you have to be constantly thinking about how can you be great at anything? How can you be good at anything if you are not passionate about it, right? If you're not passionate about it, and if it does not make you lose some sleep, guess what? Just be okay being average, right? You have to be. A great doctor is passionate about their profession, right? It doesn't matter what profession you're in. You have to take some pride in excelling at that particular skill set and at working hard at it. Why am I saying that? I'm saying that because what happens is this. When you talk to other potential lenders, that comes through, right? You can't be around me, and if I'm talking about real estate, guess what? I am pumped up and I'm excited. And I don't have just an opinion just to go along with it. I believe in what I do. I have to, right? I'm not going to go invest money in something that I don't believe in. And sometimes now, for some people, a lot of people in crypto today, we see that. Oh my God, they're complete believers. Doesn't matter what the empirical evidence says, good, bad, indifferent. I'm not commenting on that. But you have to believe in it. Right? That's a sign, and people react to that. And what happens is this. So what I started happening was, would go look at a bunch of these properties. One day, Freddie's like, Andrew, man, maybe I can throw in 20,000. And I'm like, okay, well, I borrowed 20,000 from Chase Bank as a home equity loan. And so I threw it in. Now, here was the difference between me and a lot of people at the time that wanted to get started. Even though I didn't have the experience, guess what I did, right? I went and I did the research. In the first property I did was in Hoffman Estates. And the way I demonstrated to the lenders in this case, right? In this case, he was a business partner, quote unquote, even though I was doing all the work, I was technically a lender, is that I looked at every single property in the neighborhood, every property that had sold in the last year, right? I just went out, drove by every single one. Guess what happened? I could intelligently talk to him and go, man, Freddie, dude, this property sold for this property sold for this property sold for this had a 2-car garage, this one has a 1-car garage, this had an extra bump out at the back, this had see, what happens is you develop a database of knowledge in your head. Every single sale that happened, I knew. And not only it built confidence in me, what the other person would say is, oh my God, man, you've put in a lot of time, you've done a lot of research. Now, of course, I've done a lot of research because I didn't want to fail, right? I wanted to know that the market's going straight down. This is 2008. And here I am, where everybody's running for the hills. I am getting into real estate. I mean, the worst month you could have picked to be in real estate was January of 2008. And guess what I got in? January 14th of 2008. That's when I started. Now, the advantage I had over everybody else was I was staying ahead of the market, meaning when the prices were here, I was buying properties here and then getting them resold. So the prices, and that's where I kept ahead of the market, was that the market was falling at a 5-6% rate. And I was buying properties at a discounted rate of 10 or 15% back-end values. And when I started talking to people in that way, that, hey, listen, you know why most people lost value? Because guess what? They bought properties they couldn't afford. What does that mean? Well, they bought properties based on appreciation. We're not buying properties based on appreciation. We're buying properties based on buying them at a huge discount. That today, if this house sells for 300, we're going to sell the property for 280, right? And I would always talk in terms of we, us, ours, not me and mine. See, because when it's me and mine, it becomes me versus you. But when I talk about we, ours, right, what we're going to build, where are we going to go, what happens is that is inclusive, that is a group thinking, and people get carried away with that. And so what started happening was, as Fred came on board, I did my property number 1. And in property number 1, all I made was $20,000. And I literally, as a real estate agent, I made zero, right? I didn't get paid anything for that. And it was me making this because I wanted my profits to look reasonable at least. And I was like, well, okay, at least we made $20,000. Here's your 10, here's mine. And now what do? Well, we go back and do it again. Now, at the same time, Kevin on the sideline, who's a pilot, he's watching this process, mind you. In 4 or 3-4 months, I have the first property done. Now Kevin's like, hey, Andrew, now all this time I'm looking at more properties, going to properties. I'm like, man, I think I'm going to sell it, right? And I sell the property. Now he comes in, he's like, Andrew, you don't have to put up any money. I'll put up all the money. So this time I didn't even have to go to a hard money lender and get a loan. He paid for the purchase and he paid for the rehab. And I'm like, man, this is great. Now I was this foolish. Instead of making one direct deal with him, I had a deal with Freddie. I made it a third. I got a third, Freddie got a third, and this guy got a third. Now I'm doing all the work, mind you, right? And Freddie is sitting at the cigar store smoking cigars, right? But he was the guy who initially had supported me, so I felt that I owed some sort of allegiance or whatever. I shouldn't have set it up that way, because that's all I knew. My point being is this: the way I instilled confidence, because I didn't have the confidence in myself, in the lenders, was making them a part of the process, right? And then whenever we would go, as the property is being rehabbed, I would take them with me. Right? I'm like, hey, dude, I got to go check out the property. So what happened is there becomes a natural buy-in of the other person. Think about this. If a friend of yours is buying, let's say, I don't know what car you like. Let's just pick an Audi, Mercedes, whatever he's buying, right? And you have no, you're like, no, man, I'm not in the market. But if your friend says, hey, dude, let's go look at a few cars. We're going to test drive them. You're like, okay, sure. It's a Saturday afternoon. Okay, let's go. Guess what's going to happen? You guys get to the parking lot, you see these beautiful cars there. Obviously, it's natural for you to get all excited. Maybe, well, I need a car too, right? Be exciting to buy a nice car. And that is natural. Your friend is not selling you on the car, but guess what happens? Being a part of the process, you get sold without trying it. A lot of times, when you're new especially, right? And you're talking to people, number one, what you should do, number one, is get to know the product. So if it's going to be real estate, you got to look at a lot of real estate. You got to talk real estate. You got to breathe and sleep and eat real estate. And people, if they don't think you're a little bit of a nut because you're passionate, and a nut just means is you're passionate about whatever it is. There's some people who are nuts about basketball, football, ice hockey, doesn't matter what it is, or politics. None of those things make them a dime. None of those things improve their life, but people will spend that much time doing that. If you are in real estate and if you want your net worth to grow, then you have to spend time thinking about it. And what starts happening is this, that as you're talking to people, don't think about them as lenders, especially if you're brand new and if you don't have access to people with a lot of money. See, if you have access to people with a lot of money, like today, if I'm talking to somebody about real estate, that's what people, anybody that talks to me generally, the conversation ends up on real estate somehow because they know what I do, right? That's why a lot of people come around me, and that becomes a natural topic of conversation if we talk about investing, right? It's a big topic to talk about. And so automatically comes forth. But if that's not your social circle, then what you have to start doing is, it's like if you start exercising, you start working out suddenly, guess what you're talking about? Working out. Right? You're all pumped up, fired up about that one particular thing because that's what you're into at that moment. May not be a week from now, but we've all been there. That we've suddenly started working out, and that's all we talk about. We're eating right. We're doing this. Oh my God, I saw this person. What my point being is this: that if you're new, and especially when you're talking to people with private money, right? These are not institutions. These are not people that lend money professionally. Right? These are everyday people that would love to be able to invest, but they're scared. So what you have to talk to them about is, hey, this is what I'm thinking. This is what I'm doing. You can't tell them, well, I'm going to mitigate risk. You can't use fancy words with them. The words you have to use is, hey, man, I think I'm going to buy this for this price. The property prices are here. I'm getting the property for $180. So I just got a property in Westchester, $150,000, right? The property prices on the back end are somewhere around $300, $315. And I paid $150,000 for the property. I probably spent $35,000, $40,000 fixing the property. It's a great deal, right? It's a nice home run deal. And so if I can talk to people, I'm like, there were 16 salesmen in Westchester that have sold around similar, around like 290 on the low end up to, 330. I found this property for 150. Imagine if we were doing this, what could we do with it? Right? It has because I'm being genuine. I'm not making facts up because I've taken the time to do the research. When you're talking to lenders, always cover your downside, because most people, what do is they only talk about the positivity. And so then that doesn't instill confidence. You always have to cover your downside, meaning this is how we're going to be safe. This is how we're going to be secure. The more the money a person has, the more security they look for. Wealthy people chase security. The poor people and middle-class people chase returns, right? Very wealthy and rich people are not interested in always talking about returns. They're interested in security of their money because they already have some. So they want to make sure it's a safe investment. But people who don't have it, that's why the most amount of lottery tickets. Guess who buys the most amount of lottery tickets? People who are in the lower social economic class in terms of economics, because they're like, oh my God, I may win a lottery, right? That doesn't mean people in the middle class and upper class don't buy it in terms of income, but relative to the income, people in the lowest income bracket buy the most amount of relative amount of lottery. Right? So hopefully some of these thoughts make some sense. And I'm super excited. The 3 days around the corner, about 10 days from now, literally we're counting down into the 3-day. Guys, today I'm buying more properties than I have literally in the last 12 years, right? More properties than I bought in the last 12 to 15 years. I'm buying more today than I ever have, because guess what's happening again? Market is changing. Now is the time to get in, right? If you've been sitting on the sidelines, if you are an investor, if you're somebody from Mastery, guys, double down. Now is the time, because cash flow returns are bigger. Yes, the interest rates are up, but the numbers are better than they have been in a long, long time. Having said that, If you're not a part of the group, make sure you become part of the group. Give Ms. Denise some love. She's the one who sponsored today's meeting. Denise is with I'm drawing a blank, with Jesse's team at Guaranteed Rate. Sorry, I'm just drawing a blank. With Jesse's team at Guaranteed Rate, she's a part of Mastery as well. They have done a ton of loans for people that are looking to do a house hack. They have done a ton of loans for people that are looking to refinance their property. If you're buying an FHA product, Ms. Denise and Jesse's team at Guaranteed Rate are the people to go. But before I wrap up, I want to kind of talk about a property really quick. Yesterday, I was in a property, $420,000, and it's a 4-unit building, right? 4-unit building, $420,000. Here's the beauty of it: is the investor, somebody from Mastery, is buying that property 3.5% down. It's an FHA deal, and they're doing a 203K. So it's a 203K loan because the property needs about $52,000 in work. And here's the beauty: that that loan, so the 420,000 will include that in there. I'm giving you the lump sum value on that, and they have to put up literally 3% because there's seller credits and so on and so forth. So they're coming up with 3%, younger people, to do their first house hack. Here's the beauty of it: cash flow on that property, as they buy the property with only 3%. So 3% of 420,000. So it'll be about 23,000 is what they have to bring to the table at the time of closing. And every single month, that property will make them, after expenses, every single month, that property will make them $1,000, and it doesn't cost them anything, zero, to live in the property. That's the beauty if you really understand the products that are available today. Having said this, have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.